Hello and welcome to another standard video here on the official MTG Arena channel. Today we're taking a look at a blue, red and green or Temur colored copy combo deck featuring 4 copies of Vesuvan Duplimancy, an enchantment saying whenever we cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature we control, we get to make a token copy of that artifact or creature. And then the only creature we're trying to copy in our deck is the Outcaster Trailblazer, a 3 mana 4/2. When it enters, we get to add 1 mana of any color, and whenever another creature we control with power 4 or greater enters, we also get to draw a card, and it also has the plot mechanic, so we can maybe safely keep it in exile until we're ready to combo off. And the combo is very simple. Ideally, turn 3 plot the Trailblazer, turn 4 play Duplimancy, then we still get to play the Trailblazer for free. We'll have 1 mana floating, and then from now on we just want to keep targeting our Trailblazer with a 1 mana instant or sorcery that targets it, and that will trigger the Duplimancy. Then in turn we'll get to make an additional Trailblazer, which once again makes a mana, and the more Trailblazers we get in play, the more cards we'll get to draw, since we have a 4-powered creature entering, so it becomes easier and easier to keep stringing together those 1 mana spells to completely combo off. And then once we have enough Trailblazers on the battlefield, we can give them all haste for just a single red mana using a Song of Tottentons. X can equal 0, and even though we're not making any rats, we'll still get to give the entire team haste to attack for the win. So that's our game plan, so we are capable of winning on turn 4 with a good draw. And then taking a look at the rest of our deck, of course we do need lots of 1 mana spells that can target the Trailblazer to enable the Duplimancy, and that's where Enter the Enigma from Duskmourn will come in handy. Targets a creature, making it unblockable this turn, and we also get to draw a card. In a pinch, we can also use this to target the opponent's creature early on if we just need to draw and find either Duplimancy or the Trailblazer. And then there's Take the Fall, which we can also use in the early turns to maybe prevent a little bit of damage, as we get to shrink down a creature, giving it 1 less power until end of turn, and we also get to draw a card. While we're comboing, it does mean that we'll reduce the Trailblazer's power, but usually we're making enough copies where it doesn't matter. And then a Timely Interference is very similar, could technically kick it as well to force the opponent to block, but doesn't come up very often. And then a Might of the Meek we can also cast, targeting the opponent's creature just to draw a card, can also give our creature trample until end of turn. No mice in the deck to give additional power, but still good enough to get the combo going. So we've got a total of 16 of these 1 mana effects that target our creature to keep making copies of the Trailblazer. There are other builds that include more 1 mana instants, maybe some hexproof tricks to protect the Trailblazer from removal, and those definitely have their use cases, as you'll have more consistency in comboing off once you do get both Duplimancy and Trailblazer on the battlefield, and it can also maybe save you from a removal spell, although typically removal doesn't matter. If you have enough mana and enough 1 mana instants, you can just keep targeting the Trailblazer in response to an opposing removal spell, make more copies, and potentially keep comboing off at instant speed for as long as possible, and then you'll still end up making enough Trailblazers to win the game. So 1 or 2 instant speed removal spells aren't necessarily enough to really stop us. And then taking a look at the rest of the deck, since I'm actually playing red mana in the mana base, not only to occasionally cast Might of the Meek to draw early, but it also allows us to play Bitter Union, which is an enchantment that lets us discard and draw 2, and then later in the game we can sacrifice it for 1 mana to give our entire team haste. So that way we don't necessarily need Song of Tottentons to give the team haste, which can be relevant because the card draw on Trailblazer is not optional. So let's say you already have 7 or 8 Trailblazers on the battlefield, and you still haven't drawn Song of Tottentons, and it's in the bottom 6 or 7 cards of your library, then now you're kind of stuck and you need to pass a turn, maybe giving the opponent a chance to wipe your board at sorcery speed. Whereas if we had Bitter Union on the battlefield already, we can sacrifice it to still give the team haste, so we don't necessarily need Song of Tottentons. But the upside here is that if we're comboing off and didn't have Reunion early, it's only 1 mana to give the team haste, whereas Bitter Union will cost us 3 mana total. And then we're also playing Invasion of Ixalan, which lets us take a look at the top 5 cards of our library to reveal a permanent card from among them and put it in hand. So you can find lands, creatures, and enchantments, so we'll find all of our combo pieces. And then we can also occasionally transform it into the Regisaur if we attack the battle, and that's another 4-powered creature that can maybe draw off a Trailblazer, so that's also pretty neat. And finally, 4 copies of Sleight of Hand as another cheap cantrip that lets us take a look at the top 2 cards of our library, put 1 in hand and the rest on the bottom, so it can also smooth out our draws a little bit. Of course, the drawback of playing Sleight of Hand and some of these 2-drops is that we have fewer 1 mana instants to keep comboing, but again, in my experience, once you're actually getting 1 or 2 Trailblazers in play, it's not a huge problem to draw into the remaining 16 1 mana cards. And then the mana base has lots of surveil lands as well, which are also useful to play early, just to keep digging towards our missing combo pieces for Thundering Falls, for Hedge Maze, and a commercial district. And then we've got some pain lands to round things out, since we do want our lands to come into play untapped around turn 3, turn 4 at the very least. So I'm avoiding the fast lands. And then we've got a couple basics in case we need to search those up as well. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. We've got Duplimancy, just missing Trailblazer, and we've got a few cantrips here if our opponent presents a creature. So we'll try it. Start with Hedge Maze, perhaps. I guess playing the red source still makes a little bit more sense in case we draw Bitter Union on turn 2. Opponent's blue-white. Counter spells are going to be tricky to play around, but opponent looks to be on the Oculus deck. We do see interaction like Into the Floodmaw. There's some other cards they could play to mess us up. For now, cast the Invasion. And plenty of Trailblazers to choose from. So those will now be at the bottom. So we could potentially combo on turn 4 already, if the coast is clear. Plotting Trailblazer, a good way to play around a counterspell. Opponent kept a Chart of Course, so they might have a creature to discard and then reanimate for 1 mana. Nope, opponent actually discarding a Helping Hand. So, plot Trailblazer, and then we would still need an untapped land to really combo off next turn. But we can maybe afford to play it slow if our opponent keeps up interaction. Alright, taps out for a Haughty Djinn. So the coast would have been clear, but sadly, if I play Trailblazer and cast Duplimancy, we would be tapped out. So I don't think we go for it. Keeping the land could still be useful. It allows me to maybe cast multiple instants in response to removal on the enchantment or on my creature. So a tap land potentially costing us an easy victory, but I still have high hopes. Opponent discards Oculus, so if they discarded Helping Hand earlier, they're gonna have another one to bring it back. That's fine. And then there's probably no need to cycle any of my 1-drops. Alright, take our turn. Opponent does potentially have 2 mana for interaction, thanks to Haughty Djinn. And then I'm gonna keep up blue and green. I guess there was an advantage to playing Trailblazer first if they have interaction specifically for my enchantments. But I kind of expect more interaction for creatures at this stage. Alright, so we'll kick things off. So now if they try and remove Trailblazer, we can Interference in response to keep going. And yeah, they actually had Soul Partition, so had they targeted the Duplimancy in response to me playing the Trailblazer, they could have maybe prevented me from comboing. Now we still need to find enough instants here to keep going. But may as well go now while we control more Trailblazers. Alright, so that will actually work. Probably should have actually targeted the Trailblazer that's about to get exiled. Can still enter the Enigma here. Alright, so now I need to Sleight of Hand and then hope to find another way to target my creatures. We did. The more copies we make, the less likely we are to fizzle. So I can make blue again. And then now we'll need to find our Song of Tottentons. Although it's not like our opponent's necessarily playing sweepers that we need to worry about. Alright, so I might have to start doing some math. For now we can go for red. 16 cards left. Yeah, I mean for now it's still Might of the Meek. And hope to draw a Song in time. Alright, there we go. So we should get there. Plenty of power in play already. And 12 powers unblockable. Otherwise, things might have gotten a little awkward having to pass a turn back. But that should do it. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got Duplimancy and Double Invasion to find Trailblazers. So we'll keep. And then hope not to face aggro. Since that is still a weakness of this deck, despite the Leyline ban. There are still many decks capable of winning on turn 3, and the earliest weekend combo is turn 4. So, gonna say no to Might of the Meek, even though it could be useful once we do find the Trailblazer. Opponent is on Demonic Ruckus, so some sort of aura deck. So that's bad news. And missing on Trailblazer is also not great. Probably grab the Forest instead of Thundering Falls, although that's kind of a close call actually. Because we have the 4th untapped land. Just means taking a bit more damage, but getting the extra Surveil. Opponent plots a Slickshot now. So they are gearing up. So now the earliest we can combo is turn 5. Did find the Trailblazer at least. Okay, so let's see if we survive 2 more turns. Monstrous Rage, so they're definitely going for it here. Did they also have a Sellsword to sacrifice? They don't. In that case, I could either plot Trailblazer, maybe keep up Interference, which might save me. I guess that's worth it. And keep up 1 mana. Still gonna have to take a damage off Trailblazer though. And then next turn hope to combo off. Don't really want to be forced to cast these on the Slickshots. But if that's what saves me, I guess it's fine. So 7 damage, but there's gonna be more. Alright, they let it go. We're at 1. So I cannot tap Yavimaya for green mana anymore. Play Duplimancy. Trailblazer, make a blue. And then at least if they try and remove Trailblazer, I can respond with another 1 mana instance. But their deck probably doesn't have much removal in the first place. Alright, so make another blue. Interference. Could cast Bitter Union, but then I'm tapped out. Alright, so we can enter the Enigma. So chances of fizzling out are pretty low now, but still a possibility. Let's keep it going. And then we do specifically need Song of Tottentons, and we actually got it. Interference, keep going. Still half of our library remaining, so can make a few more copies. So yeah, we might actually get there. Add 1 life, that's impressive. Enter the Enigma, so we don't need to lose any power. And then I can Might of the Meek after we make red mana. And that's probably the last one. Alright, cast Song X equals 1. And turn the team sideways. And I will not be attacking my battles. Awesome! We managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, and we're missing our enchantments. I think I'm still willing to give this a try. Between Sleight of Hand and the Surveil, we get to dig a little bit deeper. Maybe start with a Sleight of Hand. And take a Bitter Union, which we can cast on 2. Or if we're afraid of a counterspell, just Sleight of Hand and then Surveil. And then next turn I can plot Trailblazer, which plays around a counterspell better. I guess we'll take the fall. We do need enough cantrips to be able to actually combo once we do find the Duplimancy. Although resolving Duplimancy might end up being the main challenge. Opponent does appear to be mono blue. An authorized exit, also a way to bounce our enchantment. And we found a Duplimancy, so yeah, here's hoping that our opponent taps out for some creature. And then we just get to combo off next turn. Opponent's being patient, but good thing we drew another Trailblazer, which we can plot. So we once again potentially wasted their mana. And then now just casting double Trailblazer can also draw me a card. So do we start there? Just go Trailblazer, Trailblazer, because this is also the turn where they would like to resolve their Flow of Knowledge. So if they have to tap out for a counterspell, at least they don't get to draw. So yeah, I guess we'll start with Trailblazer. See if there's a response. Make blue. Opponent's gonna bounce. They could have also bounced my enchantment for what it's worth. Still get to make a mana. So now the question is, do we just replot the Trailblazer and try again next turn? I think we actually do. And then I can still cast a Bitter Union here. And then maybe I prefer the instant cantrips over Enter the Enigma, in case they try and mess with my enchantment. And then just plot and pass. Opponent unable to cast their Flow of Knowledge. And then maybe next turn we can try and sneak in the Duplimancy. Alright, so once again I think we start with Trailblazer. Opponent bounces, that's fine. Now they could still have a hard counter left in hand for the Duplimancy. So do I try and cast it anyway? I think I do. Alright, opponent had the negate, and that was going to get us at some point. So then now, do I try and cast Trailblazer or just plot it? because I could still have a conditional counterspell unless I pay 2, for instance. So then maybe it is still better to plot and then surveil. And then we'll need to find another Duplemancy. At least we resolved the Trailblazer. That's a small victory. So start here. Alright, opponent's not out of bounce spells yet. I'll just cast it this time. We get to draw. But our opponent will get to draw as well. Invasion can maybe help. Still kind of a swing and a miss here. I'm fine sacking 1 Reunion to attack for 8. But yeah, this Flow of Knowledge is scary. Can transform the Invasion as well. And our opponent's gonna let it go in order to cast Flow of Knowledge. Draw 6, discard 2. But we get to draw 2 as well. Alright, there's a Duplemancy, so we can maybe try again next turn. Although we've already seen half of our deck, so maybe wouldn't be able to make quite as many Trailblazers as I would have liked. But our opponent also needs to come up with an answer to the creatures in play. So still very much a winnable game. They got rid of another bounce spell, so they might have a few of those in hand. Now an Oculus, 3 mana left. And Oculus also big enough to block our creatures here. So yeah, if they have another counterspell for Duplemancy, we're going to be pretty sad. Interference, a way to force them to block. But it's not going to help me if my creatures are only 4 power. So yeah, I guess we'll try. Opponent had another negate, yep. Was to be expected. Just cycle a Might of the Meek. And cast a Trailblazer. At least that will resolve. And draw us a few more cards. So do we want to cycle Take the Fall? Sure. No great attacks. Could have kicked an Interference just to take out the face down card in case it's something scary, like another Oculus. Opponent seems to be casting another one. Alright. So 5 cards left in hands, and they're all spells. Our opponent making all these 2/2s also makes it more difficult to actually close out the game. So I'm probably going to end up decking before I have enough power to actually attack for lethal. And our opponent can just wait for me to try and cast another Duplemancy before countering it. I guess another Invasion digs deeper. But yeah, we're also running out of mana. And still weren't able to find another enchantment, so yeah, we've seen most of our deck now, but I think we're at the end of the line. Kick Interference. One of the fresh face down cards is forced to block. And we found another Trailblazer. So yeah, there was a small window where we might have been able to combo, but did not quite work out. 24 cards left. I guess we'll attack the invasion here. Opponent had an Into the Flood Maw anyways. So if I cast Invasion again, I would be at 11. So we're dead to another bound spell. But I guess that's going to be the case no matter what. And if any of the face down cards is another threat, that can also maybe fly over. Found a Duplimancy, but it's probably too little too late. And there's another Flood Maw, so our opponent's got plenty of bound spells that can also target our enchantments. So it's going to be pretty tricky to combo off. Good game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand's missing green mana and a Trailblazer, but I'll still try it. Can cycle our 1 mana spells if our opponent presents a creature. Another Duplimancy against black-white, I think actually keep it, since they could either have discard spells or enchantment removal. And then for now, Bitter Union. Can probably let go of Enter the Enigma, which is not an instant. And being able to cast these for 1 mana in response to removal on Trailblazer is important. So we've got the green mana, just missing Trailblazer now. Got a redundant Duplimancy in case they have an answer for it. So let's Surveil, and there it is. So turn 5 we can maybe look to combo. Loran destroys the Reunion. Would have been a lot more painful had they destroyed the Duplimancy. And I'm gonna hang on to my 1 mana cantrips here. So I guess I could plot the Trailblazer. Not quite as mana efficient as just casting the Duplimancy. Which could actually matter, again, in case they remove Trailblazer in response. Maybe they don't have another Loran in hand now that they played one. If they do have an answer to Duplimancy, it's going to be interesting if we try again to cast a second copy, or if we plot the Trailblazer first. Opponent passes with mana up. So yeah, now the potential risk of casting Trailblazer is that they would remove the Duplimancy at instant speed with, let's say, a Get Lost. And then I wouldn't be able to make copies, and then they can destroy the Trailblazer afterwards. So part of me wants to play another Duplimancy first, since we're not really in a hurry here. Yeah, let's try that. If our opponent was applying more pressure, it would be a different story. And then we can slide of hand as well. Another Trailblazer would be useful. Otherwise, more cantrips or lands. I guess I'll grab the Shivan Reef here. I think we are good to go now. Opponent cutting down their own Loran. Are they gonna reanimate it here? Not yet. But maybe that's their eventual goal. Well, let's see if this works. Cast Trailblazer. Make a blue. Opponent's gonna immediately try and go for the throat, so now we can interference and response. We're gonna go for the throat again. At this point I can let Duplimancy triggers resolve. And then Might of the Meek afterwards, since that will draw us more cards. So opponent's tapped out. The coast is clear. And can let that resolve. Alright, let's keep going. Even if we don't find Song of Tottentons, we have enough mana where we can still play our Bitter Union and sacrifice it. And then if we can avoid shrinking down our creatures, that's for the better. And our opponent has seen enough. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. None of our combo pieces means I prefer mulliganing. This is better. And then probably get rid of Enter the Enigma, which doesn't help find Trailblazer. Although it does mean that if we do find Trailblazer, it's going to take us a second to find the right enablers. And yeah, facing red aggro is probably our worst matchup, especially on the draw. Don't expect to survive long enough. But we need to find Trailblazer. Turn to Challenger. Now that Leyline's no longer in the best of one format, you can expect to face more traditional burn decks with burn spells like Shock and Lightning Strike. Here, maybe get rid of one Bitter Union. Opponent runs out Banesplitter, so they might also still be running the Sellsword to set up the combo kill with the various 1-drops like Cacophony Scamp and Heartfire Hero. So basically going back to the pre-Duskmourn red decks. And yeah, Manifold Mouse giving double strike here is gonna end it pretty quickly. So just curious to see if we would have found a Trailblazer in time. Timely Interference. And then another Bitter Union. Discard Duplemancy. And still no Trailblazer. Alright, so it wasn't meant to be here. So you'll definitely have games like these where you don't get to do much of anything. But aggro is going to be a rough matchup since we have very little in the way of interaction, besides maybe shrinking down some creatures. And yeah, these red decks still capable of winning on turn 3 with a good draw. Heartfire Hero into Manifold Mouse into cards like Monstrous Rage, or with the Sellsword, they can still get there as well. Our opponent's back. Trigger Valiant and attack. And there we see Sellsword as well. So they can choose how to win the game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got both of our combo pieces, just need to hit our land drops. And we can play Reunion to help with that as well. Green mana is fine. And our opponent on a poison deck. Okay, so play Districts. Don't need another invasion. Just looking for untapped lanes. Now I still probably hang on to Might of the Meek as a way to kind of kickstart the combo. Since we don't have a lot of instants in hand. Opponent's got the Hive. So this should be a winnable matchup. Opponent's not applying too much pressure here. Although they could potentially have enchantment removal for the Duplemancy. Opponent taps out for Toby. So yeah, we could potentially just win here. Let's go for it. Start with the red mana. If I can avoid shrinking down my creatures, it's better. Interference is next. So you can see a bit of the drawback here of playing a lot of these 2-drops that don't necessarily help us combo. But they do help us assemble the combo pieces in the first place, so you'll have more hands that are keepable, that allow you to get to this point. And then once we start making this many Trailblazers, we get to see so many cards that we should still be able to get there. So let's see here, opponent's got 2 blockers. I guess we'll shrink down something else. Blue mana for now. Also don't really expect the opponent to have any board wipes, so passing the turn without attacking could still set up the win on the following turn, and in fact our opponent's gonna scoop it up onto the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We're just missing Trailblazer, so we'll give it a shot. Vinelasher, so it could be an aggressive lizard deck. For now, let's play Hedge Maze. And I'll need an extra land here, even though red mana would be better. Deep Cavern Bat to have a look. That's already some relevant disruption. Could take the invasion, could go for Duplemancy. And goes for the invasion, so we'll slide off hand. And sure, can grab the interference. I'll just cycle it on the bat. For now, see what's on top. Bitter Union. Next turn I'm probably casting the Duplemancy anyway. How many of the cantrips am I going to fire off? Yeah, maybe Bitter Union's still fine. They're not applying too much pressure, so I might have an extra turn here to set up. Now they're playing Shieldred. That's gonna be very difficult to beat since we won't be able to draw any cards with a combo. But still nothing. Alright, red-black not known for having enchantment removal, so we'll get the Duplemancy out there before they make me discard it. So it's possible their hand is all creature removal, and they're just waiting for something to destroy. Hired Claw can help them deal more damage. So we don't have much time left here. Start with a Bitter Union, at which point Song of Tottentons is no longer necessary. And found Trailblazers, so next turn we can go for it. So hopefully we'll get another next turn. And then I want to hang on to as many cantrips as possible to try and combo. Don't need Bitter Union. Alright, so let's see if they can deal 9 damage. Bump Hired Claw. That's another 5. So it could be that to a burn spell. Could have been a reason to cast the interference. But usually those decks play Shock and not Lightning Strike. So yeah, cast Trailblazer. Float a mana. And take it from there. Make blue. Start with a sorcery Enigma, and then I can respond with instants. Go for the throat, so in response we can also just let this resolve technically, but maybe interference first since we're gonna be shrinking down that creature. Make a copy. And draw some cards. Make red. So that's dead. Draw more cards. Alright, let's keep it going. Possible they have a cut down in hand, which doesn't take out my Trailblazer as long as it's a 4/2. Once I shrink it down, they could maybe remove it. Okay, Might of the Meek. Draw more cards. Can still sleight of hand. But now we want a Might of the Meek. Yeah, I guess a green mana's not too helpful since Invasion doesn't find more cantrips. And yeah, we're potentially in trouble. Found another Might. I guess I haven't played land yet. Although if they shock me, then I'm just dead as well. So that's the concern. Although I imagine if they had a shock, they still would have tried to take out Trailblazer. Can maybe start with Sleight of Hand, see if we find a cantrip we can cast. Another Sleight of Hand. So that's not quite gonna do it. Yeah, I guess we'll Sleight of Hand again. Can maybe find a basic land that doesn't make me lose any life. Take the fall. So now I'm forced to play Shivan Reef. Because yeah, on the board we only have 20 damage, which is not quite enough. So I am dead to shock now. Alright, and our opponent explodes, make one more creature, they know about Bitter Union, can give the team haste and attack for the win. Awesome. So very close one here against red-black lizards. Luckily for us, they didn't have a ton of early pressure, and we're just relying on their interaction to stay alive. But yeah, once we get to the combo, if we have enough instant speed cantrips, we can still combo off through 1 or 2 removal spells, so that hasn't been a major problem. It's mostly the aggro decks and maybe decks with a lot of counter spells that can pose some difficulty, as we've seen in the games today. But yeah, if you enjoy combo decks, this is not a bad one to try out in the best of one ladder right now. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.